Welcome to the Lead with Courage podcast, brought to you by Illuminate Leadership, where bold conversations spark real change. Here, we dive into the stories, insights, and lessons from leaders who challenge the status quo, inspire action, and lead with heart. If you're ready to grow, learn, and lead with courage, you're in the right place.
Hi, I'm Chloe Kennick. Illuminate Leadership acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land, which we record this podcast the Yagara and Terrible people. We pay respect to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey, could I ask you a little favor? If you're enjoying the Lead with Courage podcast, could you please go and hit subscribe now? It's a small way you can support the show, and it helps us bring you even more inspiring conversations. Thanks for listening and enjoy today's episode. Today on the Lead with Courage podcast, I'm joined with an absolute powerhouse of real estate, Hayley Van De Ven. The owner and CEO of Remax Results Group, Hayley leads with heart, drive, and a sense of purpose, heading up a network of real estate offices across Queensland that consistently rank in the top performing results of Remax across Australia. She has really impressive business accolades, and we're going to dive into those today. But what stands out to me is Hayley's unwavering commitment to her people, her team, her clients, her community. In this conversation, we're going to talk about what it means to Hayley to lead with vision, resilience, and the courage to keep evolving. This is an episode full of heart, hustle, and honest reflections. Please enjoy this conversation with Hayley. Hayley, welcome to the Lead with Courage podcast. It is so good to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I know we've tried a couple of times to make this work, but it's exciting to finally be here.
We are here, and so it's going to be worth the wait, that's for sure. It is so wonderful to have you here. I'm really excited today to talk about you as a business owner, your journey in your career, talking about leadership, and something I've always admired for you and what I see is how you create incredible culture within your business. So really excited to get into all of that today.
Here.
Before we do, I would like to ask you the question we ask every guest on our podcast, which is, what does lead with courage mean to you?
For me, lead with courage sounds really probably basic, but it's having the tough conversations. It's knowing what your values are and being prepared to hold the line when that's not a popular decision.
Yes. Yes, so true.
It's a really hard environment to be in, I guess, in this day and age when there are so many popular opinions, and sometimes your opinion is not the most popular. But I guess when you have a belief in how you want to run your business or how you'd like your team culture to look, you've got to know what your values are and be prepared to stand up for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you, this is a personal question to jump straight in, but what are
Sure.
some of your values personally?
Oh, look, for me, I'm very people driven. So for us, if I think about my actual job as a CEO or as a principal of the business, I'm non-selling and I have heads of department in each of the business units in our business. So if I look at what my job is as a CEO, it's people.
Yeah.
And not in an HR people and culture piece, but in a people bringing together, creating the vision, getting people on board, all rowing the boat in the same direction, like all the cliche things that you've heard before. But it's the visionary piece as well, and making sure that I've made plenty of mistakes. Like each time that we make a mistake, we learn and we certainly grow. I think for me, the values in our business, like we've got some corporate values, like we get shit done, we move fast, we're commercially minded, we grant people's dreams, like all of these 5 or 6 key values for us that are like extremely important and ingrained in the fabric of our business. But my job is like chief reinforcement officer.
Yes, I love that. Reinforcing the values, keeping everyone aligned to the vision,
Absolutely.
where we're headed.
And
Beautiful.
consistency, right? I've always been of the thought process that if you talk a big game, you have to walk a big game. So that means if I'm constantly saying, hey, you need to you've got to be in at 8, you got to be smashing that the day, you've got to have a great early, morning routine, you've got to like all of the things that I would love to emulate success in our high performance culture. If I'm going to say that, I have to live that.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it's just words and it doesn't inspire people.
It's hollow.
Is absolutely how we lead. The example that we get set is always going to be the bar for our teams.
It is like the energy that we bring into a room. My expectation is that people are responsible for their own energy that they bring into the room. And like this morning when I rushed in and I had this ridiculous morning and it was like, okay, we just need a minute before we start because life happens. And it's then what we decide to do with it.
Isn't it? It's so funny that we've gone into this now because you're absolutely right. And off air, we're saying like, I haven't got shoes on. I've got the oils on. Like I'm really just calm and relaxed because today I've got a whole heap of podcast conversations. And what I know the energy I need is to be fully present, fully on and engage in the conversation. If I'm rushing, I'm just not going to be present. And so that's it. What I've asked myself today, all right, what do I need this morning to have this energy, to hold space, have deep conversation? And that for me is a little bit of oils, a bit of water, and,
Yeah, just living your
and
best life.
and
I know. It's
my
so good.
shoes off as I'm sitting
Love
opposite you
that.
in your divine suit and shoes as always. But yeah, finding the time and the place for the energy that we need and resetting when life throws the curveball or doesn't
Yeah.
always go to plan,
Or
which
3 or
happens
4 curveballs in a row
before 9 a.m.
before you even drop the kids off. Great.
And I'm actually going to ask you about that, not about your kids and the curveballs this morning, but what is your morning routine? And we're going to get into your career and the businesses and everything. But just while we're here on that, what does morning routine look like for you, Hayley?
I like to have the first hour to myself. So between 5 and 6, like I'll wake up quite gently. At 5 o'clock, my alarm goes off, but I'm usually awake at about 4:45. But that's get out of bed, start the morning.
Yeah.
So for me, some days it's going to look like going to the gym. I'd love to say that I go to the gym every morning, but that's a lie because some days I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
And I also think I've got to the point now where I'm real enough with myself to be like, hey, if I can go to the gym a couple of times a week, I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah.
It's not an every morning thing for me because you might have meetings. Like yesterday, I had a breakfast meeting. I had to be in Wellington Point at 6:30, like that kind of stuff. Like life happens. And
Yes.
rather than holding myself to an unrealistic expectation and then being disappointed that I've failed, I wanted to set myself up for success. So if that morning routine between 5 and 6 looks like getting up, grabbing a coffee, going out and sitting on my back deck, doing some journaling, organizing my thoughts, checking out my calendar, going through and just like organizing my day in my own mind. God forbid my kids wake up before 6, which did happen this morning, hence why I had one of those mornings. When they do get up, you're in total mum mode. So that hour between 5 and 6 is that hour for me just to have a moment of peace in all of the chaos that happens for the rest of the day.
Yeah. It's so critical, isn't it?
Yep.
It's so important.
You got to be out the door by 7:45 with our kids to drop them off. And that traffic between Seven Hills and East Brisbane is hectic. So you're like, go. If you leave at 7:46, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say swear words,
Yeah,
so I'll
don't
just
do it.
bleep myself. But in saying that, like, that's where it's like the kids get out of the car at 8 o'clock for drop off. A big sigh of relief goes over me. It's almost like my shoulders just relax. And then I've got a few minutes to drive towards game time.
Yes. So powerful. And what I love in particular is about the adaptability of that. So sometimes we can get caught up, as you said, that we feel like we failed and we're not being successful because we haven't stuck to this really rigid routine. But I think that's the difference between the practice and knowing what you need to set yourself up versus really rigidity. Sometimes the rigidity actually is
I've
harmful.
probably only realized in the last couple of years how much I appreciate routine.
Mm.
Certainly having kids on school holidays demonstrated to me that I really actually need routine.
Yes.
And like I've been a salesperson since I was 18 years old. So certainly from my perspective, routine is just not even a thing. Like you're just going with it. You're going where the work is, you're working when you need to work, you're putting in the hours. It's a discipline, but it's not really a routine. And I think it's only been in the last year or two that I've actually really leaned into the fact that although it's not rigid, the absence of routine in my life as like a business person, as a parent in particular, can be really chaotic.
Yes. And is it right in reflecting this back that it's about the routine for your energy versus like we go where the work is and how many businesses do you lead now? Or do you have?
We're at 5 now. Yeah, it's been a really crazy last year and a bit. And in that time, we've launched a couple of new businesses that are just allied businesses to help our real estate business build value for the landlords and sellers. But certainly from our perspective, it's all hands on deck, go pretty much 24/7, particularly for the startups. Like anybody that's done a startup, you understand that it's hustle and grind at the start. Whereas I've had the Remax businesses now for 10 years. They're far more established and they need less of me, which has given me the opportunity to put some blood, sweat, and tears into other things.
Yeah. And there's that maturity in those businesses now. So
And
they've
leaders
got
that,
their
yeah,
operating rhythms and their success.
yeah, totally.
Obviously, we've always still got to have the eyes on, but it's not as hands on for you.
Oh, yeah, you can't walk away. I think it's always been my ambition to build businesses that don't need me anymore. And I think when I bought the Bayside a couple of years ago, it was because that the results business didn't really need me as much. I was like, I've built myself out of a job. What am I thinking? So I went and bought an even bigger business. And like, I'm just like, fuck, that was stupid. Looking back, great opportunity and don't regret it for a second. But I certainly, if I had that time again, I probably would have done it differently.
So tell me, let's go back to the beginning. How did you get into real estate?
When I was 17, I moved here from New Zealand. You probably pick up a little bit of an accent here and
A
there.
little.
And I just thought I'd have a year, just a gap year, and then I would go and do what heaps of Kiwi kids do. They go do a year overseas and they do an OE, and then they go home to New Zealand and they go to uni. And I was just going to do like a Bachelor of Arts and become a teacher. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, well,
Maybe a police officer. That was like a dream job. But certainly from my perspective, I
you
didn't
suit the
have plans.
colours if you
Yeah,
had the
that's it.
navy and the white. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a bit of a vibe. It's just on brand.
Yeah.
But I got here, I started working in reception at a Ray White business. I very quickly got told that I was allowed to start sales. So I started working for a salesperson as an assistant. He was about 60 years old. He used to eat food out of people's fridges, steal fruit off their trees, fall asleep at open homes, like all the things as like a
we
young.
just talked about modeling by example, role models.
Exactly. That was a great lesson in what not to do.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about that experience is I started this like mental list of these are the things that I won't be. These are the values that I wouldn't compromise. So like lying, like the behavior that was sitting in front of me was quite horrifying. So I was like, ugh. And he was such a lovely old guy, but he just didn't care. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really need the job. It was just a like side hustle for him. And my principal was very generous and said after 6 months of working with that guy that I could go out on my own. And firstly, now looking back, I'm like, God, who would have hired 18-year-old me with my huge white collar and my horrendously peroxided blonde hair? Horrendous, like horrendous.
I always need to get a photo of that and put it into the show notes or something in
If
here
I
and
can
put
find it for
actually,
you.
would you? And
Yeah.
we'll add it to the socials and be like, when Hayley referenced this hair, here it is.
This is what I was talking about.
Yes.
And even more, it was like the particular photo I'm thinking of, I'm like wearing like a mission brown Rockman's suit with this huge lapel. And I'm like, oh, 2003. There you are.
Wow. Oh, wow.
It's just the epitome of that. When the very thin eyebrows, good times.
Oh, yeah.
Good
yeah,
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2003, I started my career at Flight Centre and we were wearing the ombre polyester shirts. Yeah, I hear you. It was a chapter.
It was good times. But yeah, I did sales for 12 years.
Mm.
And then in that time, got to experience like different levels of that, was promoted into a sales management role of one person. Huge, which was a nice step at 24. So experienced that type of those leadership roles quite early, certainly from a real estate perspective. Usually that doesn't come along until a little bit later, only to moving into a corporate space when I think I was 30. Yeah. From there, I worked at Remax Australia and sold franchises. And for 2 years, that was my role. It was a really great insight to incredible business people. Because learning the sales side of things, that was okay. Like I could do that through and through. It was something that I was extremely competent in. But the business side of things was a huge eye-opener. So I got to be exposed to some incredible business owners across the country because obviously I was trying to flip them into Remax businesses.
Yeah.
And after 2 years of that, there was an opportunity to buy the Morningside office that popped up in 2016. And I had done such a great job of selling it to someone else that I sold it to myself in the
you've
process.
listening to your own advice.
And that's what we did. So yeah, 2016, we bought Morningside as like a legacy business. 2017, I opened a startup in Mackay, a little Remax Results up there, which is an incredible business that I've since sold off to new owners there that were salespeople in that business. In 2021, we bought the Bayside office. So now we have the 3 left. So we've got Results, Bayside and Bayside Properties out into the spreading from the inner east to the Bayside.
Beautiful. How many people are in those businesses collectively these days?
So 120 in the real estate businesses, and we're just building out the allied services now.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
been an incredible journey. And backing is, I just love that, hearing that from being the salesperson of the franchisees. And then you're like, okay, I can do this. Tell me, when you're talking about sales and competency, and I really believe being a salesperson is just in the fabric of life. So whether you're selling a concept yourself or actually a product, But what does sales mean to you if you're training someone new? Like, what makes a good salesperson?
I think there's two key things. Personal brand in a salesperson is actually, I believe, the most important thing. Sales is a process. So personal brand is obviously you and I sitting down and then exchanging energy and you being like, oh, I really like her as a person because
Yes.
people buy things from people they like. And also, like, I have the confidence in her ability to do the job for me. So for me, that's always a great closing question. It's, Cherie, have you got the confidence in my ability to do the job for me?
I love that question.
Oh, but for me, it would be for you.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, yeah, I do. And then in sales, obviously, it's the old trick of like, she who talks first loses. So shut up
Yes.
and just allow them to answer. Listen. Like, they're just key things that maybe they don't teach you in Sales 101. But at the same time, I look at that and think it's just like decent to ask a question and you listen for the answer so that you can help them solve a problem.
Yes.
And certainly from a sales perspective in real estate and on most businesses, once you have the belief in yourself, it's very easy to sell that belief. If you don't believe in it, you might as well just walk away.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
How many times has people said no to the confidence when you've asked that question?
It's a pretty hard question to say no to.
Yeah, I wonder about
Um,
that.
Yeah. I don't even
Have
know.
you ever had it?
I don't know if I've ever had a no from that particular question. I think it's a powerful closing question. But I probably have had a couple of, oh, yeah, we are confident in your ability. However, you haven't answered this question or that question for me, which is a great opportunity to double back and be like, okay, yes, let's go over that for you now.
Yes.
So ultimately, you're just working those yeses towards the end game, which is, yeah, we are confident. Let's move forward. And I think the biggest mistake that salespeople make is they actually don't ask the question. Some people are assumptive closers, which if you look at different styles, I'm probably more of an assumptive close. So I just assume the business and then we go on the journey and it's, oh, great. Okay, excellent. Are we moving forward? Yeah. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. You're happy. Let's just start going through the paperwork. So it's not like a hard close.
Yeah.
But that's because I feel like we've built that rapport. I actually can offer the service that they, require and that I'm not going to let them down.
Yes.
Because when I know that I'm not going to let them down and we can provide them a great result, it's almost a no-brainer. When we've listened to what they've been able to put on the table, we do have a world-class process that's going to help them achieve what they want to have at the end of the day. And if I'm comfortable that we tick all of those boxes, we want to make sure that they're comfortable that we tick all those boxes and then we, can move forward.
Yeah, so great. Can I ask around someone saying no? I used to reflect on this when we're in flight center days and the difference between an objection to rejection
Yes.
and not taking something on personally.
Yeah.
And I would often say, unless you failed to build rapport, then it probably is personal. But otherwise, if you've built rapport and then someone says no, how do you develop your people or remind your people to build that inner resilience and belief? Because as you said, belief in yourself is critical. So if you're getting no's, what's the balance there? And I think this is in real estate, but also anything where people are not getting the yeses that they desire and then it's impacting their inner confidence and esteem.
I think just remembering that it's a numbers game. So it doesn't matter if you're making calls, like cold calls, for example, which no real estate agent likes to make. There's no question about it. However, in the training process, before you develop a network and do all the things and create a personal brand, you've got to actually master the skill of being able to get on the phone and having a conversation with someone where they're probably going to tell you to fuck off.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because you think, like, for every time you're told to go get stuffed, if each of those paid you $100, how many times would you keep saying no to get you to the result that was 10 grand commission or whatever it may be? So it's like when you break it down, if you know that, look, realistically, I've got to make 100 calls today to get 3 or 4 appointments. And then what does 3 or 4 appointments get you? That gets you opportunities to get through the door. I have a 50% conversion rate. So on that, I know that 3 or 4 appointments is going to get me to 2 quality leads and just breaking it back down from there. And when you know your numbers, it's actually not as scary because you're going, okay, cool. This is a process. I've got to hit these targets before I can get the result that I require. And when you get every no, it's okay, cool. That's a no, tick, done. That's one less call I need to make to get to where I need to go. And being really clear on that, I think, makes it less personal. It's not an attack on you. And like I always laugh, I'm like, people hate real estate agents. So like, why would they want to chat with you? And it's not about you're a bad person. It's just perception. And often It's like that awkward like party killer when people are like, "Oh, what are you doing?" They're like, "Oh, you're in real estate." And they're like,
Does
and
that
then you
happen?
just, oh yeah, it's so funny. And you're just like, oh shit, here we go. I also think it comes from like after 23 years, you're probably at a point where you're like, it's okay. I don't take that personally. Most real estate agents are dickheads. Like it's okay because you're not one of those people and you're confident in your own ability, but also confident in the fact that you're not going to be shoving or trying to sell them something while they're at a barbecue or whatever it may be. There's a time for professionalism and obviously leaning into your, skill set.
Yeah.
And there's a time when you can just be a really great human and be authentic in who you are.
Yeah. And that's enough because then when you
Yeah.
come back to the personal brand, when people go, oh, I like that person, I
Yeah.
trust that person, they're a good hang, as my husband would say.
Yeah.
We often say if we ever to grow, when we grow the business, first and foremost, they're just going to be a good hang. Would you
Yeah.
actually want to spend time and exchange energy with someone?
It's the pub test, right? Would you want to go to the pub with them and have a beer?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you wouldn't, then you're like, no thanks. And I think that can also be quite a difficult thing to cross because persona and personal brand, like it's so funny. I remember years ago, a friend of mine saying, oh, like, you've got such a resting bitch face. And I'm like, oh, really? That's just me concentrating. That is literally, I was like, do I seem like a bitch? And it was really great feedback though, because I was mindful of the fact that, when I'm sitting there concentrating, and sure enough, last year I saw a video of me in an interview and I absolutely had a resting bitch face. And I was like, oh my God, it's true. And I'd even already had that feedback. So it really cemented it to me when I saw it with my own two eyes on a video that, when I concentrate, I actually look like I want to light someone on fire. Don't do that.
No,
Yeah.
not actually how I feel. It's just how it looks like I feel.
100%. I know we're going wildly off topic, but certainly that for me is just good in building out who you are as a brand and making sure that if you're an authentic, approachable, friendly person, that you look the same.
Yes. Yeah, there's consistency there. So when you bump into someone in the street or at a coffee shop or you're seeing them on Instagram or LinkedIn, it's the same person.
Totally. And it would be like even when you're building out your personal brand in social media, if your photos didn't reflect who you really were, or like everybody got a bit carried away with their Instagram filter and gave themselves like incredible cheekbones when you're like carrying an extra 10 kegs. Like that kind of stuff that you're like, you need people, particularly people that are following you on socials, to be able to see you in the street and know that it's you.
Yes. Yes. That's so true. And and as we age or our bodies change, as you say, keeping that current. How funny is it when you see someone's photo and you go, you're beautiful. And that photo was from 15 years ago. And there's quite a difference here.
I know, even like the biopic that I sent you, and I was like, I'm actually just about to have new photos for that reason. And that wasn't even that long ago, but you're like, I'm actually like, I've got to update that. My hair's longer now. Like as much as I love it when I had a little short blonde bob, that's actually not what I look like now.
Yes. It's a reminder for me. I need to get some new photos too. But it is just that constantly reflecting where you are right now. Yeah. What else about personal brand other than photography actually is a huge piece, but what else for personal brand? Because that is something I know you from your personal brand and then I've actually met you. And so very much. And 100%. And would now be the time to tell you it wasn't? No, no, I don't think
at this
so.
point, I was like, this is like that awkward close.
that
when
awkward,
you can't say no.
Do you have the confidence? Is it consistent? No, not really.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It is. And actually, I feel like when I see you in person, it's even bigger and like your energy is even greater. And it is consistent. So what are the tips for people? Because I think this is that fine line around who do I want? How do I want to be seen?
Yeah.
And regardless of the industry people are in, we're talking to leaders and people who are on their own corporate or personal, professional journeys. How do you build that brand with authenticity?
I think that's the key. The authenticity is the key and the consistency of brand. It would be like if I was changing my brand or my colors constantly. So like for me, obviously, like we have our business brand colors that I keep pretty consistent. I'm really mindful of the fact that I am representing a business as well as my personal brand. So I try and tie that in. When from a personal brand perspective, I also think that I try and make sure that I dress like in accordance to the role that I have.
Yes.
It would be really easy for me to wear my pajamas. Do you know what I mean? It would be really easy to throw in a disguise and hide behind the fact that like I do have these large businesses to run and I'm the sole business owner. So all of that responsibility sits on me.
Yes.
It's not lost on me that for me, I do wear a suit pretty much every day.
Not
Um,
Rockman's anymore. Not a
I sound,
Nothing
I'm
wrong
going to
with
sound like
Rockman's. It's
such a
just a
dick in saying this, but I actually was at Gwingana a couple of
Beautiful.
years ago after I lost my mum, and I was sitting in the steam room and I started chatting to this lady. She'd also just lost her mum. I think Gwingana is a beautiful place to go when you're healing and trying to find yourself again. And this lady turned out to be one of my girls because she was hiding up in the quiet room like a day or two later, and she was doing payroll. And you can't have any tech at Gwingana. So
Yes.
I'm like, how's your fucking phone working? Oh my God, my phone doesn't work here. And she's, oh, I'm just doing payroll. I was like, girl, I got you. So I went and like basically guarded the stairs so she wouldn't get caught. But she's turned out to be one of my most beautiful friends. And I can tell you that I'm proudly dressed by her almost every day now. Sonia Stradiato. She makes
Yes, I'm like, I think
incredible
you're gonna say
suits.
Sonia. Yes.
Yeah, incredible suits for women. I think the thing that I absolutely adore about her is that like her whole ethos is about making women feel confident in what they wear and dressing them to the absolute nines. And certainly every piece that I've had has been a real great investment in my personal brand,
Yes.
but also in the confidence I feel walking into a boardroom or walking into like a meeting with the bank, or if you're going to go and ask the bank for a couple of $1 million to buy a new rent roll, maybe don't go in pajamas.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Or your jeans with no shoes on today for me.
Well, babe, you're not asking anyone for money
No,
today,
I'm
so
not.
it's okay. But like that
Oh,
whole,
totally.
I guess for me, it was also about building my future Hayley.
Yes.
So it was like, okay, what does the best version of me look like? What does that feel like? What does that person wear? How do they show up every day? Like, I don't want to show up like a frazzled mess because I've
Yes.
had the worst morning ever.
Yes.
I don't want to roll into work with like negative drama energy because I've just had to scream at my kids in the car and be like, you don't want to take that into where you are. You want to walk in feeling relaxed, feeling like in your zone, and that you're going to have the best day.
And it's so beautiful. I love actually when I followed Sonia, and Fleur Madden wears a lot of Sonia's outfits too. And I really believe that it feels so different. It's not about, I don't see it about being for anyone else. And so how
Not-
do you feel? We were only discussing that this week, where on Mondays we come into the office and it's still, you look nice and you're ready that if we need to do any photography or any videos, you're ready and on.
Yeah.
And I was saying though, I have another in my spare room. I've got my cupboard where they're my outfits for when I'm presenting or when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
And that's when you just elevate that
Lift.
and it feels great. Like I feel great in myself, and it's finding the clothing and the colors or the fit or whatever, the fabric or whatever it is, and not in a materialistic way, in a way that it lifts your energy. And if you feel good in the way that you're presenting, then that confidence builds, and you're just not, it's subconscious, I think. Then you just walk into a room feeling different, and it's power.
You do. And I think that 6 seconds where you have to make a impression on somebody. This is so funny. The first thing that I thought this morning when I saw you is, oh my God, look at your beautiful eyebrows. Like it was literally, I may not have said it, but it was the very first thing that I
Thank you.
thought as I looked you in the eye and you showed up with this magnetism that is your energy. And whether or not you're feeling it today because things are going on and we've both flown into the office, like, duh, your energy was not that.
Yeah, I
Which was
feel that
incredible.
today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, thank you, thank you. And that's the authenticity, isn't it? I think the intention every morning. And we say about moving into work, I'd say it's similar with our families, isn't it? That
Yeah.
I remember, oh, this was many years ago. Andy, my husband, said to me, and it was so cutting, like it was your friend saying about the resting bitch face.
Yeah.
And it was when I had a pretty demanding job at Flight Centre and about 120 people similar to yourself. And you'd just come home, I was spent. I didn't really understand how to manage my energy. And I remember him saying to me, do you realize that we get all your leftovers as your family? We just get the leftovers of your energy, and your people at work get your best self and we get the leftovers.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah, how
Stab.
stab.
Yeah.
And also I can feel it in my body as I'm saying it. He was so right.
Yeah.
And so it's the balance of both too, right?
I
And
hate that.
yeah,
Annoying.
I do. And also thanks. Yeah, it is. And I don't know about the word balance. I don't know how you feel about the word balance, but it's the integration of it, I think, of our energy, making sure that we've got it for the people in our world that we love and that are our heart and soul and our families, whatever dynamic that looks like, and also for the people that we lead, because that's their lives that they're coming to and that's our livelihood. So, yeah, how does that integration work for you?
I heard Phil DeBella say this once,
Mm,
and it's always stuck in my mind that work-life balance is bullshit.
mm,
It's work-life harmony.
mm.
Sometimes you're going to have to lean in starting of any business, or whether a startup or an existing business or like a peak time in your calendar for the year. Sometimes there is no balance. It's like flat to the floor. But sometimes you have the opportunity to have a little bit more balance or a little bit more harmony, and you got a bit more time on your hands to concentrate on other things, and just being, again, kind to yourself
Yes.
that not every morning you're going to be able to nail going to the gym. Not every morning you're going to be able to hit a protein shake.
Yes.
Like some days you're going to be on holiday and you're not going to have your blasted thing there. Or some days you're going to be at a meeting at 6 a.m. Or some days you're not going to finish until late. The reality is not every day has to look the same,
Mm.
but how you feel is actually something that you can control.
Yeah.
And knowing that you've done everything that you can to support that, I think, is probably the most pivotal part to managing that harmony
Yes.
so that you're not feeling burnt out.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. It's true.
otherwise you're out.
Yeah, and if we don't have that well-being, the health, the energy for it, then
Exactly.
who's gonna do it for us? No one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was only talking to my brother this morning at 5:30 in the morning, which is hilarious. That's when our opportunity to chat was, because he's gone back to playing AFL last night. So he's gone down to the Panthers and he's had a game and he's had a bit of a laugh because he's a bit sore this morning. And I was like, but how good did that feel to do something for yourself?
Yes.
You know, I used to play netball quite competitively, and I remember my very last game, I was like, I'm way too old for this. I need to find something else, Pilates or walking or something else, because netball, even though I loved it,
Hard on
and
the knees. Yeah.
very hard on the knees, but it's also hard getting out jumped by an 18-year-old. And when you're approaching 40 rapidly, which I was, it was a bit devastating to just be like, I'm too slow. I'm not jumping high enough. I've got to give this away because I don't like to lose.
So what's your thing now?
Look, I donate to Total Fusion. That's the truth. And as I said, I try and go at least 3 times a week, but I'm a donator. Yes. But I am walking the dog. We got a new puppy and she's very boisterous in the morning. So it's a good opportunity to have some me time, listen to
Yeah.
some podcasts, go for a walk, and just the mean streets of Seven Hills at 5 a.m. Woo!
That's good. That'll get those muscles going. That's brilliant. Brilliant. One thing, Hayley, that really strikes me about you, and I'm curious to just jump in, is your genuine, authentic connection or focus on being a good human. And you said earlier, and I'm nervous to say it, but I'm just repeating what you said.
Now I'm
I
nervous.
think, no, not all real estate agents have great reputations for being trustworthy or that style of human. Now, I do need to say a little caveat because we do work with some really great real estate agents. So I get there's reputation and then there's reality.
Yeah, there
But
is.
for you, running your businesses and multiple real estate businesses, how is it that what kind of culture do you've named your values before. When it comes to culture and as a leader, what do you tolerate? What don't you tolerate? How do you hire? I guess there's a lot of questions in there, but just talk us through what hiring great humans and keeping great humans looks like. And how is that sometimes difficult in that industry?
I think what it is, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Mm,
And often when you find an office where there are some untoward behavior or maybe a little ethically challenged, that's a good
yeah,
word.
that's a nice way of putting it.
That often comes from the leader, right? Like they've either
Yes.
been taught that way or that's been tolerated, so it continues to happen. So for me, it's actually easy because it's just being me and everybody being able to question those conversations, and for there to be I think it's important for our culture to exhibit like questions, right? It's okay to question me. If you don't feel comfortable with something or it doesn't align with their ethics or their values, that we can have a conversation about it. And not everybody always has to agree because not everybody has the same values, but everybody has to work with us either.
Yes.
And I think it's also important to be able to stick by those things. So if I think about a particular situation quite a number of years ago, we had what it would be like a sexual harassment issue in the business where someone made a complaint. I then went back and said, hey, look, this is not okay. You've made this person feel really uncomfortable. I know that it's not your intention because I know that you're actually a really nice guy. I know that you definitely wouldn't have wanted to make her feel that way, but you need to know that's not okay. And then it happened again. And when it happened again, I had to make a really difficult decision as a business owner. Do I allow this or do I walk my talk? Because I've told him that's not okay. I've told everybody else that I would never do that. So for the sake of a couple of $100,000, which is a hard pill to swallow, right? You're like, that revenue is just about to walk out the door. I had to be able to stand there and say, look, I'm really sorry, but I gave you a warning. You knew very clearly the kind of behavior wasn't okay. Again, I know it wasn't your intention, but your intention is not the important part. It's the fact that you still don't get it. See you later.
Yeah.
And being able to stand up to those moments where you are tested as a leader and you have to decide, like, how are you going to walk your talk?
Yes.
You talked a big game about what a safe space this is and how important our culture is and how the people in the business are actually the most important thing there. Because if you look after the people, they look after the business. Like
Yes.
that's the mentality, right?
Yes.
But can I actually enact it when I know it's going to cost me money and when no one else is looking?
Yeah. And that comes actually back to the answer you gave in the very beginning. What does lead with courage mean? Having those tough conversations. And there's a prime example.
I think of another example. We had a sales team join us over in our Bayside office and they said, oh, can we have a lock on our door? And I said, no. And they're
Within
like,
the office.
within the office. And I said, what do you mean? No, you don't need a lock on your door, babe. Why would you need a lock on your door? People are going to steal our leads. They're going to come in and have a look and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And I'm like, no, they won't. And she said, how do you know? I said, because they won't work here if they do that. And she was like, for 6 months, I'm not even kidding you. She would pile up her basket every day and she'd take her appraisal books and her lead ladder and like all of her prospecting stuff that wasn't like in her database. She would take it home with her. She'd take home her notepad. She'd take home her diaries. Like it was insane because that particular team was quite paper-based as well. And I was just like, okay. Again, if I put a lock on their room, everybody else is going to think, why do they need a lock? Maybe I need a lock too.
Yeah.
And the suspicion creeps in that they can't trust their colleagues and that they don't have that amazing relationship where they have to worry. I don't want a real estate business where everybody thinks that their competition sits beside them
Yes.
and that they need to watch their back. That's absolute fucking bullshit. They need to concentrate on outcomes for their clients, not
Yes.
fighting between our walls. And 6 months later, they were walking out one day and I said, see you girls. And as they walked out, I was like, oh, they don't have their basket. And they just decided that I was right. They didn't have to worry about the people that were in the business and they could focus on things that were more dollar productive and worthy of their time than the paranoia of that, which it was like, yes, we got them.
Yes.
They get it.
Yes. That's such a powerful example that trust, the psychological safety and trust, if that is not present in a team, where we end up wasting our energy. Because then people are worrying. And if we haven't got this place of safety,
Yep.
we can't actually relax. And then we
Complete
put
waste.
that energy into the wrong things.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
the last thing we needed that team to be doing was constantly worrying about who's looking over their shoulder. That's ridiculous. One, it's not a high performance mentality.
No.
It's coming from a space of lack, which is not something that we would support. And two, it's just not going to happen. If it did, then I, again, have to make the tough choice as a leader what I'm going to do about it. And it's just not something that we tolerate.
I love the confidence and also just the acceptance of this is what we tolerate or this is what we don't. And it's such a core 101 leadership trait, isn't it? Yet I don't think everybody gets that right. Where I have this little comic where it's a boss and the teammate having a chat. And it's very much a boss rather than a leader. And he's also, how are you going with those objectives and the little comics? Which objectives? These are the ones in my mind that I haven't really told you about. The
I know.
invisible ones.
Oh my God.
But then,
so true.
and
Yeah.
it's so common. that we go, oh, it's common sense. Everyone should know that this is okay or not okay. We have all walked different paths.
We have.
Your first salesperson was eating food out of people's fridges and falling asleep on the job, and that was okay.
I know.
So if
And
that's
he was my boss.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, when you talk about like examples he was the boss too, and would throw me under the bus at any given opportunity.
Wow.
Again, just gave me really great examples that I could have as if I'm ever in a position of leadership, these are things that I won't do.
Yes,
These
yes.
are, values for me that I won't cross.
Yeah, that integrity and those moral ethics and that moral compass. And at the same time, not being a pushover. And that's what I really appreciate and admire when we can be so people centric and so people focused and realize that a huge part of that is actually holding boundaries and holding people accountable. That is in service of the people we lead rather than it being a dictatorship or people seeing it as a negative. It's actually in service of people.
Not every difficult conversation has to be a written warning, right?
Yeah.
Often the delivery is actually the most important part.
Yes.
It's because you never ever know what someone else is going through. You never know what shoes they're walking in that day, what's
Yes.
just happened before they got to work, the morning that they've had. And although they're 100% responsible for the energy that they bring into the room when they walk in through that door or when they meet a client at their house or whatever it may be, you don't know what they're going through. Particularly, I think there's been a huge rise in mental health issues since COVID. I think maybe that's become more mainstream for people to probably talk about it.
Yes.
Before, it may have just been stuff that was swept under the rug. I don't know that people are any, worse off. It's just now it's acceptable to talk about it.
Mhm.
And it also gives us an awareness as business owners and as leaders in businesses that, okay, so is this decision right for our people? Is it going to serve the people that we have? And even if they're not going to be on the journey with us long term, are they better off to be somewhere else where they can have the support? Or is this job too demanding for them? Like in the sense that property managers are a great example.
Yes.
Property management is a very difficult job. It's never going to get any easier because it's people management. That's it. Like when we say they're a property manager, they're really not. They're managing a relationship between a tenant and a landlord, and they're the unpopular meat in the sandwich
Yes.
that has to deliver the bad news to both parties.
Yes.
And that's never going to be an easy job. It's like saying a cop will be an easy job.
Yeah.
Never.
It's just not.
It's just
You've
not.
got to come to a place of acceptance. If
100%.
you're going to be in property management,
Yeah.
it's a challenging job.
It's a challenging job. And do they have all the tools to tackle that?
Mm.
Do they have the psychological safety where they feel comfortable to put up their hand when they're drowning? Do they have the skill set to deal with the no's, the rejections, the being yelled at, the being abused? Like, we have always been of the mindset that none of you deserve to be abused. If that's to happen, you have to put down the phone, you have to reset, blah, blah, blah. But not everybody can handle that.
Yes.
Some people, like, I don't take it personally, but that's 22 years or 23 years of weathering the storm.
Yeah.
If you're a new 18-year-old to the market, how many times are you going to get yelled at before you think, oh, I don't want to do this job
This
anymore.
isn't for me.
This
Yeah.
is not for me. And then for us as a business and in hiring the right people, and I think which was like an original question somewhere in there, it was like, also, if the typical person in property management doesn't mind a fight, because often it's just a negotiation backwards and forwards all day, how do you make sure that person that you're bringing into that business isn't actually looking for a fight?
Mm.
They're looking to solve a problem and help a client and provide a solution, not just go in for the fight.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. How do you see the difference?
I think in the last couple of years in particular, we've identified the difference. We do a lot of personality profiling,
Yes.
so that's really important to us because the property manager in particular has to be very process driven, but they also have to be very people centric in the sense that it's not about the tasks, it's about the outcomes.
Yes.
A lot of that comes with training and obviously personal development. But if I'm really honest about it, it comes down to the recruitment process and asking better questions.
Yeah. Yes. And I guess this is the thing when you've been in business for some time, you see the patterns and the trends and you begin to learn and notice what you look for, what you don't. And you mentioned before in your morning practice, often you'll journal. When you're journaling, is it reflections and learnings or have you got patterns in your journaling of what you try and get out? Or is that different
Yeah.
all the time for you?
Sometimes it's just getting everything out of my head
Mm.
because I think particularly as a business owner and as a mum and as a leader of people and there's always a million things all the time. And so I'm always really mindful of the fact that like the fires that are burning brightest get my first attention at the start of the day. So it's okay. We've got a problem here. We've got a problem there. Tackle it early, get it done, move on.
Yes.
When it's like even prioritizing my time, because sometimes because we have the 3 locations, one of the businesses I haven't spoken about is our VA business, which is
that
run
in
out of
Bali?
Bali and the
yeah.
Philippines and Sri Lanka now. And they were born like the VA business was born out of COVID and then it was scaled out of a liquidation of a property management business. And I rang the CEO and said, hey, I know that obviously now that you've gone into liquidation, all of your VAs are going to be made redundant. Would you feel comfortable about me approaching them to see if they'd come and work in our VA business? And they were like, absolutely, that would make us feel so much better knowing that someone's going to love them. But that brought us the scale of really incredible, already educated and trained VAs that really hit that virtual assistant business like nothing else.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Another business in your
I don't
bag.
run that business, but it was certainly set up just to feather us and it's turned into something quite incredible with now over 100 VAs across those 3 countries and very real estate centric, but has certainly got like a number of VAs that are working in finance and conveyancing and like those type of allied businesses now.
Yeah, but you don't run that or?
No, I'm really lucky. I founded that with my cousin
Okay.
who lives in Bali and she sits in the office with the team, which is amazing. She'd been a real estate agent for 10 years before that. She knew the craft and then we brought on a GM just over a year ago.
Oh, fantastic. That is so wonderful. I love then that allied approach to your business. So you've got the core business of selling real estate and property management and then all those allied. It's fantastic.
It's all born out of need, right? What are the things that I need in my business to make it more efficient and to deliver a better like product or service to market? So for us, they've been born out of frustration, but every time that we've opened a new business to serve our business, I've then had my friends and colleagues say, oh, can we use them? Can we use them? And it's just like, yeah, okay, sure.
Why not?
Cherie's caring.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely what I guess has happened as the businesses have grown.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. I've got a few of these little cards. We pull these out in workshops sometimes. And I thought maybe I can give you one of these cards to pick and it's going to have a question on it. I haven't done a dodgy and only pulled particular ones, but there's just a few cards in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe this could be our closing question for our conversation.
Okay. My question is, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh,
And I can quite confidently say this is from my dad. So my dad's a farmer and he's very logical. Like he's very matter of fact. He's Dutch. So he's tight as a fish.
and that's where you must get your height.
My
and
height.
the
Yeah.
blonde and-
Yeah.
Yeah. I see it. I see it.
Very on brand.
Yeah.
Van De Ven.
Yes.
Those are the territory. But he said to me a couple of years ago when I was buying the Bayside business, so that was 2021. It was a really big investment. I was shitting myself because like really that was the first time I'd had to borrow money because the other businesses had been startups. So I hadn't had to go search for capital and then really put my ass on the line. Like
Yes.
I've always had my kind of skin in the game because it was my money that I had invested or whatever it may be. But now I had to go to the bank and ask for money. And it was debt that I was going to be carrying. It wasn't just sweat and tears.
Yes.
So
It's
I
a
went
whole different offering, isn't it?
totally
Yeah.
different offering because it's a commitment.
Mm.
And I went to my dad and I said, oh, Dad, I'm really scared. I don't know if I should do this. And he said, what's the worst thing that could happen? That I could go broke and lose everything. I said, what would you do if you went broke? I said, oh, I'd go back to selling real estate. He said, are you good at that? I said, yeah, I think so. And he said, do you like that? I said, I loved it. Like, I've always loved it. I'm passionate about it. It's what our business is made from. What's the fucking problem then? I love that. And I was like, good chat, Dad. See ya.
Just going to call the bank now.
Yeah.
For that loan.
But it was literally this. Like, it was literally like, if the worst thing that happens is that you still get to put a roof over your head, could you pay your mortgage? Could you get another job? Could you start again? Yeah.
I
What's
love
the problem?
that. I actually needed to hear that today. And I also love the follow-up question, because I love the question of what is the worst that can happen, and not as a throwaway line, but a genuine risk analysis. Okay, if it really did go bad,
Yeah.
where are we at with that? And it's that next question that he asked you.
Yeah.
And then what would you do? what would you go and do? Wow, I love that. Okay, I'd go and sell real estate or insert your answer here. But it just gives you
The
that
reality check.
reality, that peace of mind that you go, okay, I would have a plan B.
Yeah.
Not what I want. Like,
Yeah, it's
by
not
no
what I'm
means do
dreaming
I want
of.
to
Yeah,
fulfill
exactly.
that, but I know I'll actually be okay.
I think that it gives you that confidence of that
Yes.
if the worst of the worst happened, how would you pay your bills? How would you pay
Mm,
your mortgage?
mm,
How would you put food on the table for your kids?
mm.
And if you can do that, then really, what's the problem?
Yeah. And
Not as blunt as my dad this time.
yeah, I love that. And I said it was my last question, but I do just want to mention one other thing and just have a quick chat because that just leads me to about contribution. I've seen that you're an ambassador for Four Voices.
Oh, what an
Um,
incredible organization.
Incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm doing a little bit with Vinny's CEO Sleep Out, and both, I think, supporting people experiencing homelessness and for Four Voices, domestic violence and supporting women,
Yeah.
giving them support around financial and even the connection, the vans to
Yeah.
be able to call and charge their phones and connect. People need to go and check it out. And so,
They
yeah, I've
do.
seen you recently named as an ambassador for them. And
I'm
yeah,
so
tell us
proud to
about that.
support them, honestly. I think Joe, who's a local here in Morningside, is an incredible inspiration. Her sons actually run Orange Sky,
Yes.
which is a laundry service for those that don't follow it. But so she has that blueprint for creating something incredible and really going to scale. So I'm excited to see what she's going to do with Four Voices. But the organization itself is just full of the most incredible women that just have the biggest, beautiful hearts and really want to give back. I think that we can get so complacent in our nice suits and our high heel shoes or whatever it may be that there are people that are dealing with a lack of connection and are a total loss. The ones that are experiencing domestic violence and being trapped by their partners on their phones and not allowed to leave the house, or they've got incredible financial abuse that is being occurred, that their money, anything that they're getting, whether or not it be at work, and or it might be their Centrelink payment is being taken from them the moment that it hits the bank, or like just situations that, particularly as financially independent women, it's almost hard to fathom, like, how did it ever get this bad?
Yeah. Is it
Through,
still
yeah,
happening?
how is this still happening?
2025. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, why? But not everybody has been given the same opportunities. Some people have been grown up in a cycle of abuse that they don't actually know anything else.
Yes.
And being able to provide these pathways for these women to connect with the outside world and not feel so isolated and alone, even if it's just for 15 minutes, being able for them to charge their phone or connect the printer so that they can print out papers, giving them advice about people that they can connect with to help them when they have had enough of that situation. They do want to make a change.
Yes.
Often they can feel so helpless and not know where to turn. So it's incredible to raise the profile of Four Voices in the community and experience that connection with lots of people and lots of women that really do require that.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I really honor the work you're doing and that the Four Voices do, and however people can contribute in our own communities. I think it doesn't, there are so many incredible organizations and charities. It's just about contributing because I reflect in on your dad's question to you now, and you go, wow, you still had my worst case scenario was you still had a career that you could lean back on and confidence and financially literate, whether you'd be in that point where you go, I have got nothing left and have to rebuild, but you've had that path of knowing what success looks like, which is an incredible thing. And it's your own hard work to get there. There was another guest, we actually had a conversation with Toby Jenkins, and he was at the Sleep Out last year and he got interviewed and he talked about, I know I've got a lot of privilege, and with privilege comes responsibility. And
Yeah.
that really stuck with me because it's a wonderful thing when we can build these businesses and build the life that we desire and
Yeah.
have lots of love and great experiences. Like that's what it is about. And at the same time, not everyone's having that opportunity. So to be able to contribute and give back and be an ambassador and really bring the light to those who need more support right now, I really honor it. I
Thank
think
you.
it's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. It's a new role for me in the organization, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do with it and certainly being part of the whole ethos. The Balmoral Rotary Club, who I've been part of for years and years, is such an incredible organization locally, and a lot of the the fundraising that we've done, a lot of the work that they've done, that money's always gone like to Cambodia or to Indonesia or like it's gone externally to other countries. But it's been really nice to be able to contribute to an organization that's local and it's
Yes.
hyper local as well.
Yeah.
I think that we sometimes forget that this actually exists on our doorstep.
Yes, sadly it does. And we live in a very blessed, fortunate country, and yet so many people are really needing a hand up and support. So yeah, keep doing that amazing work and
Thanks, Dal.
keep building all your amazing businesses over here and the contribution.
Thank you.
It's really inspiring, really wonderful. And yeah, keep it up. I can't wait to keep following and hear more about it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Hayley. And yeah, we'll put all the notes in. Actually, we'll share some 4 Voices links as well, and everything where people can find you and your teams and all your amazing businesses and amazingness. So thank you for joining me today. It's really been beautiful to sit down with you.
You're a sweetie. Thanks, Dal.
you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. And that's a wrap on this episode of Lead with Courage. Thank you for joining us. At Luminate Leadership, we exist to inspire and grow the leaders of today to create a better tomorrow. We believe that the people are the number one asset in every organisation, and we're here to support you in developing yours. You can see all the work we do on luminateleadership.com.au or across all of our socials. If you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to follow, rate and share the podcast with others who are also passionate about leadership. And until next time, keep leading with courage.